Alright, well welcome back again, and we are here doing more body repair, more rust repair. Not something that I wanted to do, but gotta get this taken care of, so started cutting out everything that's bad. And see here, it was quite a bit here in the corners of the quarter panels, but actually, and this is the worst side, but the drop pocket there is actually in pretty good shape. We have some holes there we got to deal with, but the inner panel is really pretty nice. Unfortunately, the quarter, when they repainted the car, must have fixed, and I use that in air quotes, fixed the rust on the quarter, which involved just slathering body filler over it and into the holes. And of course, that didn't work because as soon as moisture hits it, it does this and starts to bubble through. So I'm not yet decided on how much of a commitment I'm going to make to taking care of that at this point, but we are going to at least try to get this rust to calm itself down and abate for the time being. So I'll show you the inside of the quarter here. You can see where there's actually holes, but they're not on the outside because that's where the Bondo is bubbling, which is quite lovely. And all the seam seal has been failing and just basically falling out when I touch it, so I've got to take all that out and clean all this up. Quite a bit of rust around these bumper brackets or rear body mounts. And, show you the other side as well. Now up this side we had a hole up here which I didn't have on the passenger side. I'm not sure why. But down in here's the opposite drop. Again, a couple of small holes there, nothing really too terrible to fix. It's all on the bottom where you won't see it, so it doesn't have to be the prettiest. But that's kind of where we are, cleaning all this mess up. So I'll treat all this and then paint it with rust bullet and get some patches made and installed there, and we'll come back when I'm to that point. Getting into some of the nooks and crannies of the trunk was a little difficult, but I bought a set of these wire brushes on Amazon. I think they were like $17 for all of these that you see here. It's a pretty good deal, and they seem to be holding up pretty well. Can't complain about them. So if you don't have all these different shapes and sizes, you might want to look into getting a set like that. Alright, excuse the fan noise in the background, but got all the rusty areas here painted with rust inhibitor, and so that's ready to go. I'm going to be putting paint on that today, and then we'll proceed from there with seam sealing and so forth as necessary. I'm not yet sure what I'm going to do about this. I'm going to see if I can get some paint mix that maybe will match and see if we can take care of it that way. So stay tuned. Alright, here's a little experiment that I decided to undertake. I wanted to try to see if I could get a reasonably close paint match to do some touch-up work on this car. And this is a Duplicolor spray can color that came with the car that the previous owner had been painting the interior with as a reasonable match to the factory color. And as you can see here, under the lighting conditions that we have, depending on where you set it, it's reasonably close depending on the lighting. This was painted with this paint, and so here you can actually see the difference in the color. Now, I just sprayed this other corner with that same paint, and I'm a little maybe more creative with my blending than that guy was, but here you can see how it kind of sort of doesn't quite match on this side depending on the angle. and how the lighting hits it. Now the real tell is if you put these cars outside in direct sunlight. Natural sunlight shows the correct color match. So that is not anything close to what this is supposed to be by the paint coat. This custom mix that I had done at the local Napa is actually the correct color. And again, depending on the angle, you can see that it gets lighter or darker depending on the lighting. Now, if we hold it up here, at least on my camera, that's not a bad match. It's still too dark, the paint sample. But that looks similar to what this color, where sunlight has not hidden it. Hidden? Where sunlight has not hit it over the years. So this is what it should look like. Unfortunately, this car is so faded that you put this anywhere else and it's like pretty distinctly different. As you can tell right here. Let's just set it here and you can see. So like I said, this is not optimum conditions to show you the colors, but you can see how that stands out. So touching this car up with paint, in other words, dealing with this area down here and trying to get some paint on that, or even more so over here. If I were to grind off all those Bondo bubbles and try to get rid of this, I'm going to wind up with a pretty significant color difference no matter what I do. You know, you could cut it along here and hope that that body line shadow helps hide the difference somewhat, but you're definitely going to see it in direct sunlight. So what do we do? That's going to be the subject of another video that I'm going to make a general video about, dealing with the exterior body issues on this car and not painting the car and doing the whole bodywork thing. It's a bit of a conundrum, and it bothers me to not fix this the right way, but it's also kind of the purpose and point of this whole car project is to not fix that stuff. So I'll let you tune into that when that drops and listen to my arguments both ways on that. But matching this color is not really going to work at present. Now, if I apply some sort of clear coat to this and get at least some semblance of a shine back, because I'm thinking about doing a wipe on clear coat, that may help bring the color back out, at which point perhaps we could do something with that. I don't know. We'll have to try it and see. But anyway, that's just a quick experiment I did. Got them to match or make up this color for us, and see. And I mean, if I stand back here, you can really see the difference in the colors. So a little disappointing we couldn't get closer to that. Could it be custom mixed to match? Yeah, it could, but they need the car to do that, and even then, what part of the car are you going to match? Are you going to match the faded paint on the outside? Are you going to go for the original color on the inside? You know, somewhere in between. I mean, what do you do? So there's that. Alright, so this is my first metal patch for the wheelhouse area, and this is for the driver's side. And it's a complex mess of a part to try to make, so I'll show you how this fits. So we've got this ginormous hole here. I removed the wheelhouse from this area, cut it back here, and this is just now down to the outer quarter panel only. So this piece will fit in here. And we'll clamp it down and attach it. Now, I'm going to be able to weld it over here and along the top, but this edge here, I'm not going to be able to weld right to the quarter panel because I'm burned through the paint very quickly out here, for one, and secondly, this is, you can see, still a lot of rust in here that probably is just going to blow open. So I'm probably going to bond this together with an epoxy along this flange and then seam seal it. It's not the optimum way to do this, but it's the way we're going to do this. Kind of the only answer I have. This part, not easy to make, a lot of compound curves and so forth, and would have been nice to have a wheelhouse or a wheelhouse panel to just cut these pieces from, but they don't make one for this car, and I don't think the Mustang ones are the same. The 65-66 Mustang wheelhouse is actually very inexpensive, and I thought about getting one and just cutting the pieces out and trying to make them work, but I think it's narrower than this car. I think the wheelhouse is pretty narrow. So then I thought about going to a 67-68 wheelhouse for a Mustang. Again, all I need is these end pieces. I don't really care about the rest because I'm not going to put the whole thing in. But I don't know the measurements there to compare, and that wheelhouse is significantly more expensive than the early Mustang ones. So to get one and not be able to use it, or cut it up and not be able to use it, would be, you know, a waste of money. Not an insignificant amount. So I decided to just make these pieces. Again, they're in here. They're not going to be perfect, but nobody's going to see them once the car's together. And then we're going to have to deal with, you know, these holes here. And they got to get very creative about covering, you know, sealing these up, but yet not making it so that you notice it from the outside. I want to try to keep as much of this paint visible as possible. Is this addressing the rust problems that are continuing on this car? No, certainly is not. But the goal here is just to seal this thing up and not have more water get in that trunk space and rust it from the inside out. We just want to slow down the process as much as possible. This car is going to be sitting in the garage the rest of its life, and not going to see much rain, of course, over the course of its remaining years with me anyway. So I'm probably doing this mostly just to preserve it for the next guy, if I'm being honest. And, you know, then he can choose to put quarters or sections or whatever he wants to. Or maybe the aftermarket will have caught up to us by then and actually make patch panels for this car, which would be nice. I have yet to determine if the Australian car patch panels will work on this, because they are different, I know, at the back here where the bumper goes on, and I haven't decided if I want to risk spending the money to find out that they don't work. But that's that patch panel made. I'm working on the other side now. I'm going to try to get them all made before I start the welding, and I can just weld everything and get it all done at one shot. But the other side's proving to be a little bit more difficult because it's got a little bit more going on. All right, that's that, and we'll move on from there. All right, we got this final piece made here for the outer wheelhouse and the passenger side. So next we'll weld that in and finish up the necessary body patching on the quarter panels. All right, there's been a development here today, and I'm going to share this with you. We're going to save this actually for the next installment to talk in detail about it. But we have obtained the 302 V8 replacement and even another C4 to go with it. Full details in the next installment.